And welcome back to Pass and Move. And for today's episode in our tips and tricks playlist basically, but really today is not about tips and tricks, it's more about our tactical and team guide. Now what we're trying to do is, of course, just as it says in the name, we're trying to give you as much advice as possible to set the team up for success. And of course Sevilla, one of the bigger teams I suppose in Spain. We can have actually a look at the club history. So not too bad so far, but what we want to try and do, of course, is actually convert this team into a consistent Champions League and possibly, La Liga winners. Champions League winners would be great, but I mean, it's a bit hard to do consistently. What I mean is to try and qualify consistently for Champions League. Anyways, you have qualified last season, so your finances are apparently good. Yeah, as you can tell, I haven't set anything up at all. So this isn't planned, and like I always say, the reason is that we want to try and go through things step by step. So I'm trying to show you how I would normally do things, just as I would if I was setting this career up, and just how like I said, just how I do things, and hopefully, give you a decent amount of advice for you to consider, whether you want to do bits of my advice or whether you don't want to do bits. The point is to try and help you guys out. So let's do that. So one of the first things I do is see which staff member I can trust. Of course, I actually do sort out my staff. If the team's rich enough, I can actually afford to fire some people and hire my own staff if I don't like them. But if not, then we just deal with it. But yeah, you don't really need to do anything in terms of head of youth development. You've got one of the best in the game and probably one of the best in La Liga as well, Pablo Blanco. Amazing judging ability, but even better judgment of potential. So we can definitely trust his judgment when it comes to seeing which players we can keep, which players we should keep rather, and which we should which we should sell. So I think he is Spanish, and yep, 64 years of age. It looks like you got a really good head of youth development, I'd imagine, for the next couple of years before he eventually retires. But either way, for now, we'll be trusting his judgment. We've got tactics to set up normally, as we always like to do, which is one possession-based tactic, one direct style of play tactic. And like I always mention, you don't normally set up both. I'm just giving you examples of which way according to which way you want to lean, either if you want to be a possession-based team or whether you want to be a direct style of play. Just trying to give you options basically, and you don't normally set up both styles of play. You actually just normally pick one and then try and do variations of that formation, for example. But anyways, so it looks like the initial tactics of 4-4-2. My assistant manager thinks we should be playing a 4-2-3-1. So let's have a look at the squad and see whether we should, which one do we listen to. So you've got Aloni in Matthias Craneviter, Argentinian. We'll actually just get rid of some of these players who've been loaned out, just to clear up the clutter. So like I always mention, I like to have a squad of 22 players, 11 players who are the leading, the starting 11 basically, and they should all eventually, you should be working up to leading players for the division, or of course star players or even world-class players. And then your backup 11 should be players who have potential to become those type of players, and that way you've got a nice little mix of youth and experience. You've got players who can be tutored and whatnot, so it's really a nice balance, and that way people aren't arguing about their game time or anything like that. Anyways, you've got 24 players, so already 2 above the 22 that I normally expect. Let's see whether there's actually a balanced 24, or whether we need to sell some players or anything like that. So yeah, let's sort out the players by the 11, sort them out according to ability, and then try and make a best 11 formation out of it. So we've got our 11 here. These are apparently, according to my assistant manager, these are his reports. This is our best 11 at in the team basically. So we've got Vitolo, who's a left inside forward, can play right wing as well. Rodamantor is not it's not a role I really ever mess around with, to be honest. I don't want to give you an experimental tactic. I want to give you information that I can vouch for. But anyways, we got Samir Nasri, advanced playmaker all across the board, probably wide playmaker here as well. I think he's a decent inside forward as well. He does have the acceleration, he's not the fastest, but he does have decent physical stats to be an inside forward. You've got your goalkeeper. It's always nice to see your goalkeeper be in your best 11 players in the squad. You got an anchorman who can play in centre mid as well. Steven Nzonzi should be the same. Adil Rami, the centre back. We've already talked about Matthias. We've got another advanced playmaker, but you can also play as a striker, so that's tempting. And you've got Steven Jovetic from Inter on loan. Another striker, and you've got centre back as well, and again another striker. So I think really it's about where you want to take this squad. So you've got, it seems to be a bit of an unbalanced side. You got two different types of players and two types of formations. So it looks like you can play either, I would say you should go for the 4-1-2-1-2. Let's do that, the 4-1-2-1-2. I feel like you just kind of have to make use of the strikers, and your majority of the strength is in midfield. So if you want to do this, the 4-1-2-1-2 for possession based, I reckon you can even do a 4-3-3, having a look at the side, to be honest. You do have an inside forward on Pablo Sarabia as well. So you might be tempted to go for the 4-3-3, but just because we're trying to fit in as many of these players as possible into the same tactic, I'm going for the 4-1-2-1-2, but we would be ignoring the wingers at the club. Hopefully, I think a majority of them can play attacking mid, so not too much to worry about. So yeah, I would say 4-1-2-1-2 for possession based, and then I would say if you want the 4-4-2 seems to make the most sense for direct style play. I know we happen to always lean to the 4-4-2 when it comes to direct style play, but it's just the one that works the best. It's like, the 4-3-3 off direct style play. So 4-3-3 is like almost always the best for possession based, and 4-4-2 is almost always the best for attacking, directly and that type of thing. So anyways, you've got variations of 4-4-2 essentially. It's kind of making a comeback in the modern game, I guess. But yeah, so let's set that up. So mentality for the 4-4-2 diamond, the possession based type of football. I would say the best is control, but like I always mentioned, standard and counter are decent shouts as well. They just happen to work best for possession-based tactics, but you can obviously go to any of these extremes that contain defensive attacking overload. So like what I would normally do if I'm playing the 4-1-2-1-2, for example, and I am playing a control mentality, the other two tactics would be the same 4-1-2-1-2, but with these other mentalities, and that way you can alternate between them and see which one can actually, maybe nick you a result or anything like that, and use them according to your match situations. Basically, that's the whole point of these mentalities. But sometimes, for example, with the 4-4-2, I would train, of course, the different mentalities, but at the same time, I might actually train a different formation. So a variation of the 4-4-2 is the 4-2-4. And it's just to push on my wingers and try and get a winner basically as well. So it depends on the formation. I can't see the 4-4-2 diamond being any more attacking or using any type of variation of it. Of course you could probably do that, but that doesn't really improve much. Plus, if you're playing this formation, you're building the team without wingers, so it kind of would make sense to play with wingers there anyways. So yeah, let's stick to control for the sake of this video, and I like to play at a lower tempo, shorter passing, being more expressive, roam from positions when I'm playing possession based tactic. But of course, this is just because I like to keep it simple and basic. I like to have 3 to 5 instructions, but without a doubt, even though I've had 60% possession, using these tactics, you can easily be way more detailed. So you can retain possession, you can get rid of being more expressive, you can definitely work the ball into box, play out defense, very good shouts for keeping possession. In order to win back possession though, you can keep a higher line, offside trap, closing down more. You can even prevent their goalkeeper from playing it short, and getting stuck in is a decent shot too, but you just have to be a little bit careful about getting too many yellows or reds. Playing narrow is good for team shape, but also for keeping the players closer together. That way they are easier to, they find each other easier, and they keep possession easier as well, just because they're keeping things ticking over, isn't it? You could possibly, use title marking, but I think it's a little bit extreme as well. But again, I like to keep it simple, so for the sake of the video, we will be keeping it simple. For the 4-4-2, direct style of play, counter and attack is your best mentalities. But again, you can of course use any of the other ones. So if you want to try and control the game a bit more, you could use control. But just bear in mind that the best ones are attacking and counter. For the sake of the video, we'll be going attacking. Instructions, pretty much the opposite. So higher, more direct, be more expressive, and roam for positions still stay the same. Just again, because of my personal preferences, I love to give my teams, the freedom of being more expressive as well as roaming for positions. I find that it really works better. Of course, with lower league teams, it kind of sucks, but it depends on what type of players you have as well. When you eventually build your team into that, the type of team that you prefer, then these type of instructions can win you games, kind of thing. Because if you trust your players in the decision making, it can really make a difference, basically. But anyways, so yeah, again, this is just how I like to keep it simple. But if you didn't want to do that, if you wanted to be way more instructive, I guess, you don't have to use all of these instructions. Like I always say, you can use some of them, the ones that you prefer. You know, when you watch your teams play, you'll know what you like and what you don't like. But anyways, clear ball to flanks and run at defense. I love those when it comes to playing direct style play. But of course, you could do things like pass into space, hit early crosses. If you were crazy, it is still kind of effective though, that you could do shoot on sight. You could possibly save that for the end of the game, but shoot on sight is a decent shout too. For your team shape though, you can play a slightly deeper or even a deeper line and close down less. That way you draw in your opposition more into your half, and then you can counter them, and that would help the pass into space and hit early crosses instruction. So normally you would be getting stuck in if you're trying to win back possession, but when you're playing the direct style play, that's not really your intentions, not so heavily anyways. But you would stay on feet possibly to try and keep your team shape a little bit better, and that way it helps with the deeper line and the closing down less. In terms of width, you naturally go wider, like I always say, with higher tempo and a more direct style of play. But if you wanted to go all out, you could play wider as well. Those are all decent shouts. Again, just for the sake of the video, we'll be sticking to the instructions that I like. So now that we've got the formations and the instructions sorted, what we need to try and do is see the tactical roles, I guess. The player roles, the positions are sorted. We just need to see who can do what role best, basically, and if we can try and alternate the roles a little bit to suit possession-based tactics or direct style of play, basically. Anyways, so let's have a look at our players. We'll get to know them a little bit more. That way we can see who to sell, who to keep, and what works best for the team. So let's see who is not ready for the first division at all. So we've got Clermont. According to Juan, he's not ready, but we are trusting Pablo's decision, and apparently Pablo's judgment rather, is that he's not ready. So I think we can definitely send him down to the under-19s. He's 21 years old, so you might be better off sending him on loan, but we're just getting rid of him basically to free up the clutter. So Correa is ready for the first division, Walter is ready for first division. I think just now onwards everyone's ready for first division. I'm just gonna double check to be safe. Alright, so we're set. We're down to 23 players, so I guess that's a little bit better, but let's see if we have the positions needed. So we've got 2 goalkeepers here. David's out for 6 weeks to 3 months, which kind of sucks, but he isn't your starter keeper anyways. Rico is 22 years of age, and he looks like he'll improve even further. He should do, according to your assistant. For some reason Pablo doesn't think so, but I reckon he's just playing it a little bit safe because he's still 22. He should improve. But anyways, you've got a good player here. I think Soria is the player that you should be concerned about. He's only considered decent. If you sell him and bring in a youngster with potential who can compete with Rico, let's not forget that Rico is a youngster with potential as well. But if you have 2, youngsters competing with each other, that's kind of decent as well. Plus, Soria is really not going to improve that much. He's 23. He could improve a tiny bit more, but he'll only be considered a good player for first division sides. And we're trying to push that barrier, go from good to leading. And that way Sevilla can really make the step up. They are expected to finish 4th this season. So hopefully Champions League football in the mix. I don't think 4th actually gets Champions League in La Liga, but maybe we can squeeze into the Champions League spot, possibly. Oh, okay, we get the Champions League playoff. Alright, so that's good, yeah. So we will get Champions League if we do end in 4th. But yeah, you got 2 right backs here, Mariano and Gabriel. So there's a good balance to it, but let's see who's good enough. So Mariano's a good player, Gabriel's a good player. Now normally, like I say, I would advise you to sell one and get another who is a leading player, but the problem is it's tough in the modern world and in the game to actually get high class fullbacks. A lot of the fullbacks in the game are just considered good or lower. So you know, if you could possibly, I don't know how much money Sevilla have got, they've only got 3 million. It's really tough to price away top fullbacks like Alaba or whatnot. So just have a look at the market before you decide to sell any of them. If you can find a player who's actually leading, then yeah, I would recommend selling one of them. If not, then you've got a decent balance here. Mariano is a first teamer and Gabriel is a first team as well, so it's decent balance. I mean, they'll probably complain a little bit, but you know, you've got 2 good fullbacks, and who could complain about that? Beniot and Sergio are both your left backs as well. One is susceptible to injuries, and Sergio seems to be possibly the better player. According to Pablo, he is, but you've got, again, both of them are good, and again, I'd say the same thing. Try and sell one of them and bring in an actual leading fullback, but don't sell before finding a leading fullback that's actually a realistic buy. It's not just about finding them, it's about thinking whether you could actually buy them. Now it looks like we're a little bit short in the centre-back department. We've only got 3 according to my assistant, but possibly maybe we can find someone who can play there. So have a quick look at our defensive midfielders, probably our centre midfielders as well. Maybe we can squeeze someone in there. Alright, so it doesn't look possible. Okay, so it looks like we do have 23 players, but it looks like we do need a centre-back. So I would recommend definitely investing in a centre-back. We'll have a look at whether you need to get a leading one or a potential youngster, basically. But I think it would be, just by looking at it, it should be a youngster. You've got 3 experienced centre-backs here, and Rami and Pereira will probably decline. Pereira is already susceptible to injuries, and Rami is also considered just good. So again, you've only got good players for the division. You really want to break that barrier into leading. So these are your first choice centre-backs here. Daniel is also a decent, you know, he's considered good, so he's a decent centre-back, or a decent backup rather. But again, you really want to break that barrier. So if you sell either Pereira or Rami, then and get in a leading player, that wouldn't be a bad shout. You could possibly even sell Daniel because he's the least of the 3 centre-backs, and then bring in a leading player, and then your 4th centre-back should be a youngster with potential. But again, I think you've got some good centre-backs actually. Just looking at their attributes and their ability, it's just about trying to get the best out of them, and again, trying to push out of that barrier of just being a good team and being a leading team instead. You know, you have to compete with the likes of Barcelona, Madrid, both Madrid teams. So it's just really tough, basically. But anyways, if you're playing the 4-1-2-1-2, it looks like you're sorted in that department. So you've got 7 players. You actually need 8. I reckon any of these wingers you can pick out to play as well. So it looks like you'll have to actually retrain, or rather not. I thought you'd have to retrain one of your advanced playmakers to be central midfielder, but it looks like Ganso can do that. You could possibly play Franco as a striker instead, and then squeeze in maybe another winger here. Pablo, probably your best bet. It looks like if you're playing the 4-1-2-1-2, you won't need Walter or Correa either. Correa is a youngster with potential, so I'd be tempted to send him out on loan, possibly get him back next season, maybe reconsider your options. Samir Nasri is a loanee, so you could possibly replace him with Correa eventually. But yeah, it looks like Montoya won't fit into your side at all if you are playing the 4-1-2-1-2. If you're playing the 4-4-2, it looks like it'll be a decent option. We'll have a look at him a little later. So yeah, you do have 9 players here. Let's get rid of Franco. I think he is a striker. That would make, there you go, you've got your 4 strikers and you've got your 8 midfielders. So you're sorted. Matias is considered good, but he will become leading. Again, if he does it this season, great, but we have to consider that he's just a loanee, so just keep an eye on that. And Zonzi is only a good player apparently. Vincent is only a good player as well. Michael, a good player. Pablo, a good player. Vitolo is a good player. Nasri, leading, so finally you've got a leading player there. and Ganso good. So again, it's just about breaking the barrier once more. You've got a good youngster in Matthias, but he's only a loanee. The other players who are of age, it doesn't look like they actually will improve. Try and consider who you want to play in defensive mid, who you want to play in centre mid. We'll have a look at that later when we try and build our side as well. But it looks like you might want to sell one and bring in a leading player again. So defensive mid, I don't think you can actually do that. I would recommend that for centre mid because you've got Nzonzi and Matthias. But would it make sense selling Nzonzi and then you're suddenly short of defensive midfielders next season when Matthias moves on? So in centre mids, you could possibly do that. Michael or Mikel, he's out for 4 to 5 months, so again that's something to consider as well. But he's also 33 years of age, so it's unlikely that he will be improving when he gets back from his injury. In advanced playmaker or attacking midfield, you are pretty much sorted, I think. Nasri is a good attacking midfielder, he's leading in the division. And you've got decent backup in Vitolo or possibly even Ganso, who are good players. But again, you could sell them and bring in youngsters with potential. But again, I'd have to tell you to just keep an eye out because Nasri will be moving on, of course, again, just because he's a loanee. So in your striker department, though, it looks like you've got decent players. Franco is good, Jovetic is good, Vieto is good, and Wissam is good as well. So once more, it's all about breaking that barrier to becoming a leading team. Jovetic and Vasquez should be your starting strikers. Vieto's a good player with potential, and Yedder. If we imagine we don't have these low needs, then you've just got Vasquez and Yedder. So you might want to try and bring in an actual leading striker, or and then one more who is a youngster with potential. But you just have to be very careful about balancing this. This is my issue with loanees, is that you have to be very careful. Sometimes you forget that they're actually there just for a season, so it's tough to build a side around these type of players. But anyways, in the 4-4-2 department though, you have your 4 midfielders here. Your issue is actually that you've got advanced playmakers that you don't actually need. So whether you retrain Nasri and Ganso into centre mid and possibly get rid of some of the defensive midfielders, or the central midfielder, for example, Michael, you don't really need him. And then you'd have to, I think, retrain probably Sarabia. No, he's already a left midfielder, so you're sorted there. Vitolo, he could do a little bit more, I guess, in being trained for the winger position and the right mid. And then I think you've got your numbers sorted at least. If you're playing the 4-4-2, then you could sell one of them, and that would help fund your centre back investment. But yeah, let's have a quick look at the under-19 to see if there's anyone ready actually, B team and the C team as well. If there's anyone ready for this first team, it would be a good shout. It doesn't look like it. No one's ready to be promoted. It would have been great if we had the centre back here, but unfortunately we don't. So I think we can make our team now. So for the 4-4-2 diamond, I would recommend the... Okay, so it's all about balance basically. You definitely have to play wing-backs or complete wing-backs. You don't want to be playing inverted wing-backs or defensive full-backs or even a full-back, just because you don't have any wing support whatsoever. So wing-backs and complete wing-backs are your best bet. I would say a wing-back on attack and a complete wing-back on support is a really nice balance. Complete wing-back on support will still be very attacking. It's just that he would be having the duty of support, so it brings a little bit more balance to the side. As you can see, they're already in line with each other as well, despite the differences in duties. Your central defenders are just central defenders. I didn't see anyone who can play in ball-playing defense. I would recommend the halfback. So normally I recommend an anchorman for the when you're playing a defensive midfielder, because I love the halfback, the anchorman role. But the halfback role is perfect here because you actually slot in with your central defenders, and your wingbacks can push on even further than normally would in this formation, knowing that they have the full protection of the defensive midfielder. Now, all we have to do is actually find out whether we do have the players who can play at halfback. My bet is you actually can. And Nzonzi is a defensive midfielder capable of, doing the passing and the vision of a halfback. Even though it says deep line playmaker is his best role, and I would actually say that as well. but halfback is, you know, would be perfect for it. I'm not sure if the other defensive midfielder can play that way. Matthias, can you? He has the vision. He has decent vision in passing, so, and he's kind of comfortable with the role. Not bad. Ibora. Yeah. Okay. So it looks like you've got players who can do that. So we'll be going with a halfback role. If you would want a player who can play a support role, not a support role. A ball-winning midfielder on support would be great because you're trying to win the ball back as much as possible. You do want to play an advanced playmaker in this team, but whether you want to play him in attacking mid or in your central midfield is kind of a decision to make. But basically, these are your options. You need a central midfielder on attack. If you're playing the advanced playmaker there, you don't want to play two advanced playmakers, then it gets a bit messy. Or you could play the advanced playmaker here, but you would need to make an alternate change here. So maybe the trequartista is a good shout. The problem is he won't commit to your, you know, closing down more type of instruction if you are playing that. Just bear in mind, you do have a strong team shape to support his lack of defensive I guess responsibilities. He doesn't really do it. As it says, the team will have to carry him when defending, but you do have the team to do that, the setup for it, so you don't have to worry too much. Attacking midfielder on attack is decent too, but he's not really, doesn't really keep possession. The trequartista doesn't really keep possession either, but I think trequartista is just a bit more creative, I guess I would say, and that suits possession base. So I think that's your options, either trequartista with advanced playmaker, or possibly the little bit more balanced way of playing, which is central midfield on attack and an advanced playmaker on attack. But yeah, I'm pretty sure your players can actually be, you know, they'll be suited to centre mid attack. You just have to find someone who's, I suppose, comfortable with finishing. That's the only difference between an advanced playmaker and a central midfield on attack. There's really not too many differences. Maybe the vision, you don't need too much vision, but you know, a central midfielder on attack who has vision is great. So Nasri would be perfect for central midfield on attack, but he would also be perfect for advanced playmaker on attack, and trequartista, of course. So you've got plenty of options there. I'm sure your players will be comfortable playing either one. Now the real question is, where do you support and where do you, your strikers rather. So I would say false nine is normally the best, but he has to, but he's typically a lonesome striker, so it's a little bit weird playing him now. I would suggest the complete forward on support and the advanced forward on attack is your perfect duo, I guess you could say, for this 4-4-2. Normally I would suggest false 9 when you're playing possession based, but again, that's more of a lonesome striker type of thing. You can try it out, see if it works. You do have the players for it without a doubt, but complete forward on support is a better shout. Let's just see if we have the players for it though. So our first choice striking options are Franco, who again, false 9, but he is decent as a complete forward on support. He just doesn't have too much pace, so it might be a bit of a worry. Also Jovetic, let's have a look at him. You can also play complete forward on support, but I'd reckon both can be comfortable with advanced forward. I think Jovetic is more of an advanced forward than his striker partner, but you can play complete forward on support as well if you need it. So that's it. I think that's pretty much sorted. You can play probably both false 9s and then their duo as a advanced forward. The partner, I mean. But I think that's it. I think that's pretty much sorted for a possession-based tactic. So the 4-4-2 will be a little bit different. Typically, if you're playing direct style play, you would want a target man with a poacher as your duo. I think we do have the players needed for a poacher, but I don't think we can play a target man at all. We'll have a quick look again, but I really doubt it. They're more creative type of strikers, not winning the ball back type of strikers. You've got a decent striker, target man there in Franco. Jovetic, I guess, but I mean, you really want your target man to be crazy good in those attributes, but that's when he does much better. I would say you can experiment with target man, but complete forward on support is your best bet. You have to play wingers in your formation, winger support here, winger attack there, which would mean a deep, actually my best duo in centre mid for direct style players, deep line playmaker and box to box midfielder. Just have to find out we have the players for it. I'm sure we do have the deep line playmaker on defend. We already saw that in Nzonzi. it's about the box-to-box midfielder. I'd recommend you keeping an eye on your centre midfielders if they can play as ball-winning midfielders as well, because we didn't actually have a look at that. Matthias can play ball-winning midfielder and can play box-to-box midfielder. His only issue is I really hate box-to-box midfielders who don't have the attributes for off the ball. Long shots and finishing is kind of important, but I think off the ball is the most important one at all, because not at all. They're the most important one of all, because they do have the freedom to roam, so off the ball is really crucial here. Matthias can probably do a decent job there, but you might want to keep an eye on someone else, and Zonzi probably could do that role as well. Yeah, he's a bit more suited to it, but he's much better as a deep lying playmaker. So again, it's about balance. I think the 4-1-2-1-2 suits this team a lot more than 4-4-2, but this is just to give you options basically. Nasri, he won't be a deep line playmaker on defense because he doesn't have any positioning, so maybe you might want to consider him as a box-to-box midfielder or even roaming playmaker. That's something actually that you might want to consider in the 4-4-2. If your players don't suit the box-to-box midfielder, you can play as a roaming playmaker as well, or even possibly ball-winning midfielder on support. So those are your options, but just try possibly to eventually build to a box-to-box midfielder. But I would say your team's more suited for the roaming playmaker for now. So I think this is your setup. Try to eventually move to a target man and a box-to-box midfielder, but that's pretty much how the 4-4-2 should look. So now let's just consider, before we end the video, your youngsters who have potential. With the head of youth development, a lot of these players should improve. You've got a bunch of great youngsters here, 21 years and younger, and a lot of them would actually slot into your side. So you've got a bunch of wingers here, which is great if you're playing the 4-4-2, but horrible if you're playing the 4-1-2-1-2. You've got a striker here and a complete forward in support. And these players really have a lot of potential, to be honest. Very good ratings for the senior team eventually. Inside forward here is kind of useless. You might want to try and retrain him somewhere else. If you are playing the 4-3-3 though, I guess inside forward is great for you. Central defender there, always needed. The ball-winning midfielder in Fede, he would slot in seamlessly into the 4-1-2-1-2. Target man here in Juan Munez, or Munez. Either way, perfect target man, I guess, if you're playing the 4-4-2 as well. Left back, always good to have a left back, I guess, but he is a little bit unusual. Probably more of a central defender, I would say. And you've got Kuro in right wing, but also capable of playing as an attacking midfielder. So yeah, just a couple of youngsters to look out for. Some of these might not actually reach their potential. Some of these actually might surpass their potential and actually end up being first teamers. Just keep an eye on them. Try and give them as much loans as possible. And it looks like you do have a really good setup. I think actually, in all honesty, Sevilla are a much more balanced and better side than Atletico Madrid in the game anyways. I find Atletico Madrid were kind of a struggle to do if you watch the last episode. But anyways, that should be all for today's episode. So if you did enjoy it, then please do, of course, hit the like button and subscribe for more daily Football Manager 2017 content. And as always, thank you guys for watching.